too. Earlier when I ended up flashing everyone. So I deleted that really fast. So we'll just see if anybody wants to check in, if they have any questions or concerns. I know we had a pretty good turnout last week. We'll see how this week goes. Anything you want to say? Anything that turned out this week that you think is important? You guys, lots of bone broth tips over the past like 8 days. Make sure you check them out. I did a bone broth video too. So make sure you're checking those out if you are confused about how to make bone broth. Really, once you do it, it's like so easy. Riding a bike, like the simplest thing. I did show it in my video, I think last night, how I made beef bone broth with you can just buy the beef bones. They can be fairly inexpensive depending on where you get them from. And then there's tons of marrow in those bones. So you can use those bones over and over and over.
Honestly, though, a lot of bones are not worth getting. They really ought to be at least organic, if not grass-fed. Getting marrow from grain-fed, factory-farmed cows, it's just not worth it. Mm-hmm. So, you'll probably end up paying more to get the high-quality stuff, but it's absolutely worth it because this is kind of the foundation of your nutritional health.
Right. So try to get really high quality bones when you're doing beef bones. Also, any questions, if you guys have questions or concerns from this week, from meal planners, let us know right now. Otherwise, we're just going to talk.
Yeah. So one thought that I've been having is on the importance of keeping it simple, especially if you're on the verge of overwhelm. There are a million different ways that you can optimize and customize all of this stuff to make it even better, but there is nothing more important than just doing it.
Yeah.
And so if that means you have to super simplify everything, that's great. Do that.
Yeah. Make it really easy and doable, but practice. Mm-hmm. You just have to practice doing this. It's a new way of life and a new way of cooking and a new way of looking at your food. I was chatting with one of our members yesterday, and she said that she was telling her friend about this program and how she was learning how to make bone broth. And the friend was like, but this is how we've always been made to eat. And we've just totally forgotten. It's such a natural thing to do, or it was, to make bone broth, to prep food from scratch. Mm-hmm. But our culture has completely warped that into TV dinner meals and microwave meals, and you just pop a pizza in the oven and you're good to go. So it's recreating the baseline. It's like digging deep into our ancestral roots and bringing out Little House on the Prairie vibes, you know what I mean? So.
Well, and that's exactly the problem, though, is that back then, and even as you go further back in time, the more of the day was dedicated to procuring and making and eating food. Mm-hmm. That was kind of everything. It was find food to eat, find clean water, and then
farm the food,
and then make babies, right?
Yep.
Nowadays,
so that they could help you harvest the food.
Well, yeah, so you could pass on your genes, whatever the drive was. But nowadays we have a million different things pulling our attention away from that really basic food piece. And so expecting us to be able to do all of the same things that was done for hundreds of years on top of our really busy society, it's just not going to happen. So obviously in an ideal situation, we would get back to that simplicity where all we're doing is making sure that we're getting really good food in. But that's not realistic. So you have to be really gentle with yourself.
Super gentle.
And you have to start simply. It's okay to walk before you run.
Exactly.
So if all you can do is add in the bone broth for a week, then just do that. That's still going to be a million times better than what you did for a long, long time.
If you are doing the Gutsy Health membership, and sorry, I have a itchy face. If you're doing the Gutsy Health membership and it's a little overwhelming, maybe 1 week practice doing the bone broth. Watch the videos, watch the tips, and all the little cheats. Try the bone broth, and then the next week try the green smoothies, and just do the green smoothies. And then the next week do the bone broth and the green smoothies. Yeah. And then the next week try one meal And then the next week, try 2 meals. Like just slow increments. You don't have to, like, my biggest hesitation when people start this is they start off 150%. And I love that, but it's not sustainable. And so I try to slow people down and be like, you know what, this is gonna feel overwhelming in a few days, you know, and then they message and they're like, I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, yes, and that's okay. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel outside of your comfort zone. Food isn't just food. It's a lifestyle. It's tradition. It's what you've done every single day. And there's so much emotional charge when it comes to our food we eat. And the time that we spend around it, right? And now you're completely changing the time that you spend around it. So don't let that scare you. It's just practice, recreating that baseline. So if you guys don't have any questions or concerns, few things I want to point out. One of our members had a great question about a multivitamin that she takes. I reposted it here on Facebook. There's also a podcast episode that we did on it. And if you're a Gutsy Health member, go into the file online that says Medicine Cabinet Wednesdays, where I talk about like vitamins like that everyone should be taking, or just kind of like an overview of like some of the core vitamins that people should take. That's some really good places to go as far as like trying to find information on like synthetic vitamins versus whole food vitamins. What are our favorites? Guys, vitamins can be tricky and overwhelming. So make sure you listen to that podcast episode. What else? What else has come up a lot this week? Review digestive enzymes if you guys are confused. I had someone, I'll share this with you guys. I had someone reach out to me. He's removing his gallbladder tomorrow. And we were going back and forth and you know, we were trying to figure out like, you know, what does he do when he has his gallbladder removed? And I was like, well, first let's check your hydrochloric acid. You know, how's the hydrochloric acid? And so he does the burp test and he's like, and he fails it, right? And then I'm like, okay, we need to support your hydrochloric acid. This is probably why your gallbladder has like completely failed and has tons of scar tissues. You don't have enough hydrochloric acid. And he's like, well, I've been on antacids for a couple of years. Could that be related? And I'm like, yes, it absolutely could be related. And he's like, come to think of it, my gallbladder issues started around the same time I was taking these antacids. And so you guys review digestive health, review the classes. I have posted some things here on Facebook about why digestive enzymes, why hydrochloric acid. Make sure you're reviewing that because it is so important that we understand these fundamental rules of health. If you don't support that hydrochloric acid, nothing is supported in your GI tract. That's why we have you do those burp tests, right? So make sure you do that baking soda burp test. Make sure you're taking your Zypan. Sorry, my face is itchy and I can't use my other hand to itch it because I'm holding a sleeping baby here, or a sleeping toddler. She's no longer a baby. So review your digestive aids. Part 2 of that digestion class is going to be coming out towards the end of this week. So that'll be fun to watch. But make sure you guys watched part 1 of the digestion, like under the digestion class. Anything you want to add to that?
About the digestion?
Just digestion stuff, yeah. Anything we're seeing?
No, just remember that even if you figure your little system out, it might shift over time. So, for instance, with the Zypan, if you find out you're supposed to take 3 per meal, don't expect that that's always going to be that way.
It's going to shift and change.
Our expectation is that your body is going to get better at doing that naturally. And unlike hormones, adding these things in doesn't stop your body from producing its own.
Right.
So over time, as you heal, your body's going to produce more of its own acids, and then you're not going to need as much of the Zypan. And the way that you'll know is that you're going to start getting too much and it's going to feel like heartburn for you. And that's whenever you get the heartburn, it's either that suddenly you need more or suddenly you need less. And you need to play around with it to figure it out.
We actually have a member who was taking the Digest Forte and 2 Zypan and just recently messaged us and said, I have indigestion towards the end of the day or sometime during the day. And we said, it's probably because you're taking too much Zypan now, which is awesome. That means your own gastric juices are kicking in. Your body is healing. You know, you can back down to 1 Zypan and 1 Digest Forte. And maybe you can see like teeny tiny little fingers sticking out my shirt there. And then from there, you know, like no Zypan, you know? So it's, but one thing you guys will probably notice is your need for Zypan will increase or decrease according to your stress. So you guys, I want to stress so badly. The number one reason why our guts, our digestive tracts don't work is because of stress. There's a book I'm reading right now called The Gut-Brain Connection. What is it called? The Gut-Brain Connection. And like everything I've read right now is all about stress and how the microbiome reacts to stress, how your enteric nervous system reacts to stress. And the enteric nervous system is the nervous system that controls your gut, basically. So that enteric nervous system is completely altered and shifted according to your stress response or according to the state of stress that you're in. So I hope that as you guys are learning how to heal your guts, you're learning how to fix everything, that you are taking stress into account and you're trying to heal stressors in your life. You're trying to meditate. You're, you know, hopefully as your symptoms are improving, that's taking off stress too, because there's this positive feedback loop of stress induces digestive problems, which induces more stress, which induces more digestive problems. So hopefully some of that.
We actually, there's a nerve called the vagal nerve, the vagus nerve, and it kind of is one of the connections between the brain and the gut. And that will directly cause these either upstream or downstream effects where your stress affects your digestion affects your stress.
Yep.
So.
Actually, fun fact, I was learning this in this book, that vagus nerve, 90% of the information is going from your gut to your brain, and only 10% of that information is going from your brain to your gut. So it's really interesting that the gut, like, physiology is so important, that the messages that it sends to your brain is so crucial for like your mental health, you know. So make sure you guys are really nurturing your digestion. You're really nurturing your stress, because that's gonna help aid in the digestion. And if you guys go ahead.
On that note,
shoot out questions if you guys have any, okay?
The way that you eat is a big factor with this, because the message you're sending your body as food goes into your body will affect how well your body handles that food. And what I mean is, slow down. Forte is so valuable because it preps you ahead of time. It tells your body, hey, we're about 15 minutes before the meal. And that way, by the time food actually gets into your stomach is already primed. It's already at the right pH to break everything down. All the enzymes are already there, ready to get in and get the nutrients freed up. It's the perfect system. When we eat on the go and it's just all of a sudden we're grabbing a snack and shoving it into our bodies, nothing is ready. The whole system gets caught off guard.
Yeah.
And your stomach's gonna sit with food in it for a long time. That food's gonna fester and create extra gases. That's gonna give you indigestion. Once it gets into your colon and your small intestine, peristalsis isn't taking place because it wasn't prepared. So it sits in there and it festers and it creates, dysbiosis and gas and all kinds of unpleasant things.
Yep.
So really it starts with how you relate to your meals. And I'm saying this as a massive hypocrite because I rarely even sit down to eat, but it does make a big difference.
It does. We're such hypocrites. Well, just because, we're trying to feed our kids, and
we all have our excuses. You have your excuses, we have our excuses,
Yep.
but the fact is that they're just excuses.
Yep.
Right?
It's true.
So having special time, sacred time for at least one of your meals where you get yourself prepped ahead of time can make a world of difference for your digestion and your stress.
That kind of goes back to recreating that baseline, right? Of, this new normal of spending time prepping food, how that is such an ancient practice of how we used to prep food, and taking time with our food. Like, your digestion actually starts as you start prepping your food and touching it and smelling it. That's when you start digesting, because that's when your enteric nervous system is triggered and it's like, oh, we're doing this. So it starts to secrete hydrochloric acid, and that hydrochloric acid starts triggering the gallbladder to get ready to secrete bile, and then all of that starts triggering the brush border of your small intestine to release enzymes. And so everything's getting prepped. And so it starts from pulling out those veggies, cutting them up, smelling them, prepping things. So it's just creating this new normal of like food being your medicine and not just your source of calories. So again, recreating that new baseline, this new relationship with our food and the way that we prep food, it's going to take time. So just be really patient with yourselves, okay? Just give yourselves a lot of grace as you practice this. And like we said in the beginning, practice, practice, practice. Like, it's wonderful that the meal plans are there to take away a lot of the decision fatigue. But all that is required from you now is just to try it. And again, if you need to just start with bone broth one weekend and then green smoothies the next weekend, and then the next week, bone broth and smoothies, just ease into it nice and slow. Like, that's okay. All right.
You know what else is okay? Picking like 2 meals that you know your family likes and making them over and over
again. And over again if you want.
We've done that ourselves many times. In fact, that's kind of our default when we're not following the plans. We've got a few things that the family's really into right now, and we just keep making it because we've got all the ingredients. It's easy for us. We know everyone's going to be happy with it.
Well,
it's okay.
And the nice thing about the meal plans too is it gives you a grocery shopping list. So we'll buy the grocery shopping list, and sometimes we don't follow it to a T, but that's okay because we have all of these groceries in. So when I think, oh my gosh, what do I need to make for dinner tonight? I can just whip out one of the recipes, and do it. And I might not do that every night. I might utilize the ingredients for a different meal, but at least it's there. And it's convenient. So again, it's not like me wandering around Sprouts being like, what should I buy? What do you think I should make? So hopefully that part of figuring out food is helping with this learning process and this reprogramming process. And that's it. If you guys have questions, just shout them out. If not, we'll wrap this up really fast. Anything else, Tris?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, any questions or concerns? Just shoot them out.
I mean, you know how to get a hold of us.
Or
exactly. It's not like your questions
Voxer,
have to wait till this day.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe we'll jump over on Instagram and do a live Q&A there, see if we can get some questions.
Yeah, we got a lot of food stuff we need to do tonight, though, so we probably won't do that. But anyways,
well,
we might not. So anyways, good night, you guys. Happy Sunday. We'll do this again next Sunday at 5 p.m. I think this is a good time. So talk to you guys later. Bye.